I'm explaining a film from 2013 titled Captain Phillips. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. In 2009, Richard Phillips, a merchant mariner, prepares to captain the MV Maersk Alabama, a container ship, carrying 23 crew members and 17,000 metric tons of cargo from Oman's port of Salalah to Mombasa, Kenya. Unaware of what lies ahead for him, Richard walks out of his house with his wife, talking about their children. A colony of pirates in Isle, Somalia, is contacted by Somali criminals who scare the underprivileged in order to plunder ships for their personal gain. Adan Bilal, Nur Naji, and Walid Elmi are the three guys chosen by Abdawali Muse, one of the colony men, to be his crew for their next robbery. Along with a second boat full of pirates, the four of them set out on their adventure armed with their weapons. Additionally, they have a monitor that indicates the area of the sea the ships are in using satellite signals. Most of the ships are close to one another except for one that is far away from the others, as the pirates observe. Richard is the captain of the MV Maersk Alabama, which is the ship they are discussing. The transmission frequency of the ship has been traced by the pirates, who are able to hear every call the captain places to U.S. Navy headquarters. They determine the ship's itinerary and follow it with the use of this information. They need a day to reach the ship's position. Commander Richard spends the night researching the number of pirate hijacks that have occurred in the region they are in. He starts a pirate exercise the next morning to keep the crew vigilant. He notices two boats approaching them on the radar not too long after that. Using his binoculars, he observes that they are coming directly at the ship. In order to find out if the boats are following them, he swiftly telephones the engine room and requests that a crew member deviate slightly to the left. The boats likewise slightly alter course when the ship advances to the left. This validates Richard's fears. He is certain that pirates are pursuing them. He quickly phones UK Maritime Trade to let them know what's going on. Although she agrees to file the report, the female operator on the other end guesses that the boats are likely some fishermen. "We're not here to fish," the skipper says as he hangs up. Now that the boats are barely 1.5 miles from the ship, he takes another look at them. He observes that everyone on board is carrying guns. Richard immediately comes up with a strategy during the panic attack. He pretends to contact a battleship on the phone, knowing that the pirates are listening in on their chat. Pretending to be a soldier on a warship, Richard says in a deeper voice that they are sending air support to assault the pirates. When his scheme succeeds, one pirate boat becomes anxious. They change course and head back, but the boat carrying Muse and his crew continues to move at the same speed. The skipper then gives the engine room crew the command to reduce speed and veer the ship from left to right. The pirate boat is unable to keep up with the enormous waves created by this behind them. The waves' force is what propels the boat. In this manner, the ship sails away from it securely. Richard sets up a meeting with the whole ship's crew for the evening. He says that even though the pirates have been defeated for the day, everyone should remain vigilant since they could attack again the following day. A terrified crew member asserts that their duty is to move the supplies, not to repel pirates. Richard, who has done his homework, states that the region they are in has 5 distinct gangs of pirates operating from different directions, so their best option would be to continue their voyage as it is. Richard advises they change their path and go through a safer one. The pirates chase them again early the next morning. Richard promptly notifies the crew of the emergency and immediately contacts U.S. Maritime. They are told by the operator that the Navy will arrive soon. However, the pirates are now too near to the ship, so in an attempt to drive them away, they run the pressure water pumps. But because to Muse's abilities, the pirates shoot gunfire at the deck while dodging the water streams. After climbing a ladder, they ultimately reach the ship. When Richard understands that the crew's lives are in jeopardy, he gives the order for them to immediately seek shelter in the engine room, leaving him and the other 2 people on the top. Additionally, he uses the code word "supper time" to signal that the crew can exit the engine room. They are ordered to remain where they are until they hear the code word. The 3 get aimed at by the pirates as soon as they approach the control room. Below, Richard is told by Muse that he need not be afraid and that their goal is not to murder anyone. "I'm the captain now, look at me." Richard says there are simply food supplies and paperwork on the ship. Aside from that, he offers the pirate their $30,000. $30,000? Do I appear impoverished? In order to gain complete control, Muse requests that the whole crew be summoned to the deck. Richard makes contact with the others, inviting them to the deck. Nevertheless, since he forgot the code phrase, the crew stays in the engine room. Muse gets angry and asks to be brought to the engine room by himself. Richard accepts to accompany him and warns him that it will be difficult to maneuver in the dark if the engine room's lights go out. He switches on the walkie-talkie as he finishes speaking, secretly communicating with the engine room staff. They figure out that the captain asks that they switch off the lights. First Officer Shane goes to grab some water, and Chief Engineer Mike Perry goes to turn them off. At the same time Muse, the captain, and his 17-year-old pirate companion Bilal head for the engine room. Muse notices a map of the boat and demands to be led directly to the engine room, rejecting Richard's attempt to divert them by sending them to a different chamber. Richard proposes that they head to the dining room and get a bottle of water first because it's too hot in the engine room. Mike has more time to turn out the lights in the engine room after the three leave for the room. When Shane notices Richard and the pirates coming in, he hides in the dining room. When Richard discovers that Bilal is without shoes, he confronts him directly why. Shane phones the other people in the engine room after the three go, asking them to put pieces of glass on the floor as a trap for Bilal. As requested, the crew sets shattered glass fragments in the entrance. Thus, he is hurt when Bilal enters a little later. They proceed farther into the room while he whimpers in agony for a time. That's when everything becomes dark and nothing can be seen. Muse becomes quite irate over this and asks Richard for clarification, to which Richard naively replies that he has been with them the entire time and doesn't know. Muse requests that Richard bring Bilal to the top deck so that Richard may treat to his wounds while he searches for the crew. Once Richard and Bilal go, the group musters up the bravery to take on Muse. In a matter of seconds, they are able to take him captive. If they want Muse to return alive, they force him to summon his buddies on the deck and tell them to leave Richard and the other two alone. Then, the captain gives Muse a lifeboat and $30,000 to get off the ship, and he takes it. Richard then gives Muse the money and instructs one of them on how to use the lifeboat. Muse motions for the pirate in back of him to shove Richard inside just as he is about to go between two of them. With haste, they launch the lifeboat and flee with Richard. Despite their fear, the crew follows the boat since they don't want to leave their leader alone. After that, the U.S. Navy is made aware of the circumstance and placed on high alert. Drones are sent out to sea to keep an eye on and maintain control over the lifeboat. They deduce that the boat is heading into Somalia, where the Navy is unable to stop the kidnapping. Thus, while they are still in the water, they must save the captain. The pirates decide to demand millions of dollars in insurance money from the shipping firm in return for Richard's life as a ransom. The pirates begin fighting among themselves at night as their weariness overcomes them. They also run out on the cot, a plant-based stimulant they've been using to become stoned. They travel toward the Somali coast the next day, but they are unable to get in touch with the mother ship that has been controlling and advising them till now. With the pirates, Richard is remarkably talkative and never stops asking questions. Najee, a pirate, strikes Richard after letting his anger get the better of him. He makes threats to murder him, but Muse intervenes. The pirates are rendered blind and the USS Bainbridge approaches the lifeboat and shoots spotlights at it. On board the Bainbridge is a guy who goes by the name Nemo and speaks Somali. Before beginning the negotiations as they tend to their captain's health, he speaks with the pirates and provides them food and drink. Muse agrees to meet with the Navy to bargain and demands $10 million in return for Richard's life. Nemo boards a boat and heads toward the lifeboat with a few soldiers. They wait to proceed with the talks until they get evidence that Richard is okay. When Richard asks the Navy personnel to get in touch with his family and let them know he's okay and that he's seated in seat 15 on the lifeboat, Muse leads him to the lifeboat's door. The pirates fail to notice that the Navy uses the seat number as a tip to determine where the pirates are within the lifeboat. Richard is pushed back inside by the Muse, who demands $10 million. Though it won't be simple, Nemo informs Muse that there are certain things they can work out. Raising his pistol near Richard's ear, an enraged Najee blasts it through the top of the lifeboat. Muse calls the worried Bainbridge as soon as possible to reassure them that Richard is okay and to let him to speak with them on the phone. After that, Muse promises to get in touch with them once they get in Somalia. A little bit later, fully armed and prepared to battle the pirates, the USS Halibutton and USS Boxer arrive. Richard informs Muse that he has to go to the toilet, and Muse lets him go. Bilal is already on the perimeter outside. In an attempt to get away, Richard baits him, shoves him into the water, and dives in himself. The members of the naval crew notice two persons in the water as he begins to swim for the Bainbridge. But they can't tell since it's too dark to tell if it is Richard. Then, as Najee makes threats to shoot Richard, Muse leaps into the sea in an attempt to pull him back on board. Fearful of getting shot, Richard purposefully retreats back inside the boat. Najee is now kicking and punching Richard in a fit of anger, but Muse stops him before he can kill him. Muse and his men are ordered to surrender by the Bainbridge CO as a Navy chopper passes over the lifeboat. With a gun to his head, Muse retaliates by seizing Richard and pushing him through the door. Then he fires a couple shots from the handgun, aiming it at the chopper. The Bainbridge CO now starts naming the pirates and their respective origins, as well as reciting the entire history of their home ship, in an attempt to calm them down. The Muse and the others are visibly very much alarmed by that. The Navy SEALs set up shop on the Bainbridge's helicopter deck as they converse, equipped with sniper rifles. When all four of them are in the clear, they aim them towards the pirates inside the lifeboat, waiting for a chance to fire. To pick up Muse and convey him to the Bainbridge for negotiations, a skiff goes out to the lifeboat and attaches a tow rope. Additionally, they fasten a listening device to the lifeboats outside. Richard gets handed a bag containing a yellow shirt while he's there. In addition to telling Richard to wear the shirt to be warm, the man discarding the garment also tells him to remain sat in the same chair. The SEAL snipers attempt to gain verified sightings of all three pirates now, but they are unsuccessful. Richard gets out a scrap of paper and begins writing his family a final message. After Muse leaves, Najee, the group's new leader, discovers him writing and takes the paper from him. Richard becomes enraged by this and assaults Najee. The pirates tie him up and blindfold him as the battle comes to a conclusion. Najee is ready to put Richard to death after realizing there is no way for them to escape the situation safely. When they see this, the men on the Bainbridge notify the SEAL team commander. After that, Richard apologizes to his wife for not being at home with her and declares his love for her. At that point, Bilal and Elmi are in the clear to be taken out by the snipers, but Najee is still not in sight. The boat twitches and Najee stumbles into view as the SEAL team commander then gives the command to cease the tow. The execution happens right away after every pirate is out of the way. Richard yells as the three pass away and blood splatters all over him, and Muse is handcuffed and taken into custody. When he asks a Navy officer if his pals have passed away, he answers honestly. Richard is saved, and his injuries are attended to. He asks his family if they know he is safe, and the chief assures him that they do and he will be allowed to phone them shortly. The man is still in disbelief. Muse was found guilty of piracy and given a 33-year sentence. Richard was reunited with his family. Richard came back to his job at sea a year later. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Hope to see you next time.